Osu. Created by Dean Peppy Herbert in the C#.NET framework, Osu is an open source rhythm game that has a simplistic control scheme and only one central rule: click those circles. But from this simplicity, the community has been able to spawn nearly limitless amount of content from this game, with the advent of different skins to customize your cursor with, the endless amount of maps made by the community, many of which are heavily inspired by anime and other Japanese works. That alongside the competitive community that has allowed the game to shine as being a real challenge despite its cutesy appearance, Osu has gained a massive following due to its charming aesthetic, huge appeal to anime fans from all walks of life, and just generally fun gameplay and socializing aspects. It also helps massively that the game is 100% free to play. Fall Guys. A battle royale, Wipeout-inspired game made by Mediatonic in the Unreal game engine. This game became massive due to its widespread appeal and easy to pick up nature. It sees you play against multiple opponents online as you go through various rounds where you have to win by surviving each progressively harder minigame. The game became truly massive due to the numerous amount of memes and community forging, but it had a sad falling off period due to the prevalence of cheaters and general lack of updates. Ultimately, the game was bought out by Epic Games, as the dev team decided that the game had become way too massive to handle on their own, and it is currently doing fine for itself at the moment. Terraria. An action-adventure sandbox game developed by Relogic made in the C#XNA framework. Terraria is known for its open-world sandbox gameplay. Often referred to as the 2D Minecraft, this game made a huge name for itself, mainly due to its addicting gameplay and the procedurally generated 2D world it makes for the player. With the perfect blend of crafting, combat, and exploration, this game is sure to stay in the realm of mainstream appeal for years to come. Cassette Beast. A 3D Pokemon-inspired RPG made in the Godot game engine. It was made by Brighton Studios, and the game features a player exploring around this mysterious island and meeting these strange creatures that you can absorb into your cassette tape. Unlike Pokemon, however, the player actually turns into these monsters, and you battle other people or creatures as yourself. The game features a unique battle system where the actual typing of your beast can change depending on what move it gets hit by or uses. On top of that, there's even fusion in the game, with over 16,000 combinations. Top that off with the stunning visuals and absolutely banger OST, and Cassette Beast is one highly underrated masterpiece I assure everyone should play. Spelunky. A 2D platform game created by independent creator Derek Yu and his small team in the Game Maker Studios game engine. The game features you playing as a cave spelunker, literally called Guy Spelunky, really creative. You have to go room to room in this enormous labyrinth and try to collect as much treasure as you can before you die. You can also save these damsels in distress characters that will give the player more health if successful. This game is known for its cool enemy variety, awesome power-ups in the form of items, and stellar gameplay cycle. This has made it become a true classic in the eyes of many game critics despite this game's age. It still holds up greatly. Distance. A 3D racing game made in Unity by Refract Studios. Having worked previously on an innovative racing game demo known as Nitronic Rush, Distance is the direct follow-up to that game, and it masters the core mechanics that it introduced. Being seen by the developers as more of a survival racing game rather than a traditional one, Distance features some of the most expansive and unique track designs I have ever seen in a racing game. The driving physics allows the player to jump, flip, and dodge over multiple obstacles with great precision and spectacle. And the track editor, alongside this game's dedicated community, has led to a racing game that has nigh infinite amount of gameplay packed into it, with there being multiple customizable cars you can download and an endless amount of amazing tracks you can race on with people online. Hello Neighbor. An indie horror game made by Dynamic Pixels in Unreal Engine 4. Hello Neighbor has a pretty interesting gameplay premise. You are the neighbor of this creepy middle-aged man, and his increasingly suspicious activity near his house begin to draw your attention. It's up to the player to successfully sneak in and explore the guy's house in order to find clues or hidden lore as to what the guy is up to, and if he's hiding anything monstrous in his basement. Praised for its intriguing premise and unorthodox gameplay, Hello Neighbor has left its mainstay in pop culture as being another peak indie horror game, although some of its detractors claim the game is uninspired and trying too hard to cash in on that indie mascot horror market. A Hat in Time. The self-proclaimed cute-as-heck game that was made in Unreal Engine 3. Tears for Breakfast crafted a truly masterful experience with this amazing 3D platforming game, initially having a rough rise to notoriety due to its parallel release alongside Mario Odyssey, another hat-themed 3D platformer. A Hat in Time managed to regain its place in the world when people started to realize just how creative, charming, and truly beautiful this little platformer was. It features unforgettable characters, a gorgeous art style, and truly stunning soundtrack, and a surprisingly humorous and emotional narrative. The player plays as Hat Kid as they have to explore the land and restore her spaceship back to full power using the power of these timepieces you find throughout each level. Yeah, I simply can't glaze enough how fun this game is to play. This tiny little section in this video can't sell enough how amazing it is. You simply have to play it yourself. Just Shapes and Beats. A 2D rhythm game made in the Unity game engine by Berserk Studios. This game is known for its intense, sporadic bullet hell gameplay. The player is forced to dodge all pink objects on screen while jamming out to some absolutely banger dubstep, techno, and EDM tracks from some of the best music composers on the internet. This game feels like a love letter to the late 2010s era of YouTube, where dubstep and techno remixes of songs were at their most popular, and artists like Danimal Cannon, Nitro Fun, and the entire Monster Cat crew were in their prime. Just Shapes and Beats simply decides to channel this nostalgia, and it makes for a pretty fun and engaging experience through and through. Poppy Playtime. Another indie mascot horror game, made by Mob Entertainment in Unreal Engine 4. In this game, you are an ex-employee at this toy factory known as Playtime Co. You are coming back to the facility many years later to explore the mysterious circumstances of why it was shut down, and those reasons make themselves really apparent really quickly, as the place is infested with toy monsters that want to tear you limb for limb. The gameplay itself is pretty simplistic, with it just being a basic puzzle platformer experience, but the game's atmosphere and story is the main driving force behind why this game is immensely popular. This game gets a lot of comparisons to Five Nights at Freddy's, and that alongside the troublesome company developing the game has left quite the sour taste in many gamers' mouths, but this game still champions on to being quite popular and successful in the market. And with Chapter 3 of the game just about coming to a conclusion, this game shows no signs of slowing down in the near future. Crosscode. An indie RPG made in the Impact game engine by Radical Fish Games. This game is known for its amazing combat system that blends traditional RPG elements with a more open-world moment-to-moment gameplay loop. You can combine different melee and range techniques with whatever element you have equipped, and it makes for a very experimental yet satisfying gaming experience. That alongside this game's breathtaking pixel art aesthetic and touching story about a young girl named Leah who's trapped inside of this MMORPG, and you've got yourself a pretty solid and unique indie game that way more people should have played. It's just so underrated. Punic. An isometric action-adventure game made by Finji in the Unity game engine. This game features you as a fox that is traveling across this extremely hostile land as you have to explore and figure out just what the heck is going on. No, seriously. This game just starts off by dropping you off at the shore, and it pieces out, leaving the player to figure out the rest. The game even features its own unique language which you have to decrypt in order to actually read the instruction manual for this game, which might I add is an actual item that you collect the pages for, bit by bit as you progress. Punic is a truly once-in-a-lifetime experience where the developer fully wanted to sell the mysterious nature and exploration vibe of early Legend of Zelda games, and that I can say he succeeded at, thoroughly. With its brutal difficulty and challenging progression, Punic is one of those video games that you have to take seriously if you want to actually progress through. Now, some people might not like this approach, some may love it. Either way, you can feel that this game had a lot of hard work and passion behind it. Deltarune. Another indie RPG made in Game Maker Studios 2 by Toby Fox. This game follows a young teenager named Chris as they pair with a monster Susie and the Prince of the Dark World Ralsei to save the world. Deltarune was created as a complete antithesis to Undertale's game design philosophy, as here, none of your choices really matter to the overall plot of the game. The game is praised for its, once again, having a stellar OST and gorgeous pixel art style to accompany its compelling story. Right now, there are only 2 chapters that you can play, both of which are completely free, I might add, and the game has already garnered immense popularity due to its tie to the already world-renowned game designer Toby Fox and his amazing game design. Geometry Dash. A free-to-play platformer made in Code 2D game engine by RobTop Games. Initially being released for Apple and Android devices, this game had an absolutely meteoric rise in popularity due to its relatively simple-to-play gameplay loop, tap to jump. And with that, the game is able to create truly spectacular and interesting levels utilizing this one core mechanic, and that, paired with the nice music accompanying every level, as well as the endless fan-created content that the in-game level designer features, and you've got yourself a truly endless game in your hands. The recent release of version 2.2 has also shown that the game is far from slowing down anytime soon, and if anything, it only gets popular each and every day as time goes on. Dead Cells. A 2D Metroidvania roguelike game, a Roguevania if you will, where you play as the prisoner who attaches his head to other bodies in order to escape from this island full of monsters, infected with this disease called the Malice. The game features an innovative pixel art style that still to this day is said to blend the effects of 2D and 3D perfectly. That paired with the amazing soundtrack as always, and the addicting gameplay loop of dying over and over again but slowly making progress, and Dead Cells has carved out quite the niche for itself among hardcore gamers that are looking for a challenging, beautiful, and truly subversive gaming experience. Risk of Rain, a roguelike platformer game made in Game Maker Studios by Hop-Hoo Games. This game features an innovative difficulty scaling mechanic that raises the challenge of all the monsters the longer the player spins in each level. This forces the player to choose between upgrading their gear or progressing as far as they can before the monsters become too unkillable for them to handle. Even though it has a pretty basic pixel art style, the game was praised for its unique premise and extremely hard but fair gameplay. With the sequel Risk of Rain 2 garnering even more praise, this game series can proudly sit among the other greats as being a true classic in the stellar roguelike video game genre. The Forest, a survival horror game made in Unity where you play as Eric LeBlanc that searches for his lost son after a plane crash in this forested area. Made by Night Games, the gameplay of this game features you fighting off cannibalistic monsters as you try to navigate your way through this open world. The game is heavily praised for its AAA quality graphics and animations despite it being made by a small team, and that makes sense when you consider the fact that it was produced by a visual effects movie artist. The game uses innovative lighting and graphical techniques to sell its world, and that has made it a true standout in the horror game genre when compared to its contemporaries. Freedom Planet, a 2D pixel art platformer made in ClickTeam Fusion. This game follows the journey of a teenage dragon girl named Lilac as she fights against the evil forces of Lord Brevin. The game features the player going from level to level with stellar visuals and a stunning soundtrack to accompany them at each step. Each of these expansive levels has a perfect mix of speed, exploration, and combat to make sure nothing gets too stale or too old. And the game actually has some quite challenging difficulty, with the bosses in the game taking me upwards of over 30 minutes to actually beat. Though nothing to write home about, the game features some hilarious voice acting for the various characters in the story, two of which you're actually able to play as, that being Carol and Mila. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and with the sequel coming out that improves upon the original in every conceivable way, I'd say Freedom Planet is quite the underrated gem of a game, and definitely a must-play for all the classical gamers out there. Rocket League, a car soccer game developed by Psyonix and the Unreal Game Engine. This game is truly one of a kind. The gameplay is unlike anything seen on this list before. You drive a car around on this open soccer field, and you simply have to score points by hitting into the other team's respective goal. Seems easy enough? Well, no. Because beneath this game's seemingly simple exterior lies a skill ceiling so high that it requires constant air dribbling just to reach. Jokes aside, this game appeals to the competitive side of most gamers, as achieving victory in this tug-of-war style game, where it's very hard to score consistently, is simply too satisfying to let up. And with the game's extensive customization features for all of the cars, that have expanded even further due to the game's recent acquisition of Epic Games in 2019, the game's rise in popularity can be attributed to the fact that it was made free with Epic Games at the helm of its development. It's just one of those games that will stay in the market for a very long time, due to its truly unique style of gameplay and infinitely competitive potential. Sparky Jester, a 2D pixel art styled platformer made by Lake Fepard in the ClickTeam Fusion game engine. This game is heavily inspired by classical platforming mascots like Sonic, Mega Man, and Kirby as the main callouts. That being said, this game stands out as a masterpiece due to it featuring possibly the best level design out of any platformer I have ever had the pleasure of playing. The game's retro 16-bit aesthetic is also put to great use as it features an absolutely sublime art aesthetic, with saturated colors popping out everywhere and animated levels that will leave you awestruck. This game's various power-ups also aid in making sure that the levels never get too stale or formulaic, and the game features a story with the perfect mix of seriousness and silliness that makes for an engaging and satisfying experience. Oh, and to top that off, it has one of the best soundtracks I have ever heard for an indie platformer, bar none, with it featuring some of the same artists that worked on Sonic Mania and No Straight Roads. To put it short, Sparky Jester, in my opinion, is truly the best 2D platformer of all time.